You saw her smile and thought it meant something. The way she leaned closer when you spoke. The soft laugh at your words. The light touch on your arm. It felt like proof that you finally mattered. For a moment you believed you were seen, and you clung to that spark like a drowning man clings to air. Not because you're foolish, but because no one ever told you how powerful the hunger for validation really is, not from the world, but from her. The woman who, in your mind, doesn't just admire you, but defines you. Because somewhere in your upbringing, in the stories, the songs, the traditions, you were taught that being chosen by a woman is the seal of manhood, that her approval makes you real, that her love redeems the parts of you you can't face alone. But what if that belief isn't love? What if it's a carefully packaged illusion, wrapped in centuries of culture and philosophy? And what if a man long before you, Immanuel Kant, the philosopher of reason and duty, saw through the illusion? What if beneath his writings on morality, he hinted at a truth so unsettling you want to turn away, that what binds you to her gaze isn't love but dependence, that what you call devotion is often submission to her validation? Kant didn't despise women. He didn't rage against them. He studied them with logic, not sentiment. And what did he conclude? He claimed women were shaped not for philosophy, but for beauty, that they weren't designed to reason abstractly, but to charm, to soften, to guide men through affection rather than argument. He wrote that a woman who seeks knowledge loses grace, that her role was not thought but presence, not principle but influence. Before you dismiss him as outdated, ask yourself, why do you still crave her attention more than her understanding? Why does her smile feel like redemption and her silence like death? Maybe deep down you don't want her to be your equal, you want her to be your mirror, to reflect your worth back at you. And Kant, with his rigid clarity, named that imbalance as nature itself. He believed women direct morality not through logic, but through their presence. They don't convince you, feel compelled. Her charm makes you want to be better, not because she understands your ethic, but because you crave her approval. Her eyes become your compass, and you confuse that pull with love. But maybe it's not love. Maybe it's just you trying to be enough. And here lies the hollowness. If her praise is not for who you truly are, but for the mask you wear, then what are you building? A bond or a performance? Kant pointed out that men are driven by duty, by principle, while women are guided by taste, by the immediate. That's why her attention feels intoxicating. It isn't rational. It's instinctual, and when she gives it, it feels divine. But it's not a gift. It's feedback. He argued women weren't meant to study ethics, because they already embodied it not through reasoning, but by symbolizing it. They became living icons of morality. And that's the trap. Once someone is turned into a symbol, you stop questioning them. You worship. You confuse her presence for wisdom, her admiration for truth, and you tie your worth to her gaze. So you bend. You soften your anger to look more understanding. You sacrifice your roar to keep her close. You trade your raw self for the version of you that earns her smile. And slowly, without realizing it, you shrink. Not because she demands it, but because you've never been taught how to stand without her approval. Kant insisted that men and women were not equals in purpose. That man is the reasoner, woman the reliever. And even now, with all your independence, all your strength, you're still captive to her smile, still reshaping yourself for her nod, still enslaved by a script that was written centuries ago. You confuse performance for partnership, chemistry for connection. And when her gaze fades, when her affection shifts, you don't just lose her, you lose yourself. Because your identity was never built on you. It was built on her validation. Kant warned, when we place our value in beauty and charm instead of principle, we become prisoners of the external. True freedom comes only when we act from duty, not desire. And maybe that's the beginning of change, not by rejecting her, but by breaking the addiction to her gaze. But this is where you rise. Not against her, but within yourself. You stop performing for her approval and start living from principle. You stop asking, what does she see in me? And start asking, what do I see when I look at myself? That's the shift from dependency to sovereignty, from chasing validation to embodying truth. Because she is not your judge, not your redeemer, not your mirror. She is a person, and so are you. When you no longer need her approval to define you, that's when you truly become a man, and she will sense it. She may walk away, or she may be drawn closer, not to your performance, but to your presence. That is connection, not control. And it's rare, but it begins only when the hunger for validation dies. So let it die. Let the illusion burn. Stand not above her, not beneath her, but beside her as someone whole on his own. Because only a man who knows who he is can truly see her for who she is. Not a symbol, not a mirror, not a reward, just a woman. And in that seeing, something real can finally begin.